Clemson Dubcast. It is Friday, October 24th, open week, and believe it or not, actual good news concerning Clemson football. Got a commitment, and of course, our Paul Strelo at TigerIllustrated.com is all over it. Be sure to go to TigerIllustrated.com if you already haven't, if you aren't already a member. Some pretty good recruiting developments recently, I would say. So this podcast has been going since August of 2018. More than 770,000 downloads of more than 340 episodes. And my great friends, Blake Smith and Brooke Archenhold at Parham Smith Archenhold Law Firm, have been a part of it for every single one. They are longtime Clemson people, and they give you the experience and the results you need. Their team can help with personal injury and medical malpractice cases. They currently serve North Carolina and South Carolina with offices in Greenville, Spartanburg, and Charleston. If you or your family has been injured, I want you to help you get the compensation you deserve. Schedule a free consultation by calling 864-301-8767 or by going to parhamlaw.com. That's PARHAM law.com. Celero Commerce, formerly known as Tandem Payment, is a full-service integrated electronic payments provider powered by leading-edge technology. Celero provides a wide array of merchant solutions, simplified payments. They make onboarding, taking payments, maintaining risk management and compliance, and getting support quick and easy. At Celero, they're all about helping you achieve sustainable growth as a business. Taking payments isn't the only thing your business needs. With Celero's solutions, you can manage inventory, sell products and services via social media, schedule staff, track sales, get reports, and much, much more. Find out more about Celero at celerocommerce.com. That's CELERO commerce.com. Okay, we initially planned to make this a two-guest podcast. Pete Nakos, Brett McMurphy. Actually going to turn it into two separate episodes. Our conversation with Brett McMurphy went for quite a while as I speak here on Friday afternoon. So we'll have McMurphy probably early next week in a few days. But these two are powerhouse newsbreakers at On3, and Pete Nakos has quite a story that actually, the roots of it, involve him actually covering Clemson a while back when On3 was getting started. Great stuff. Enjoy. Here we go. All right, joined by Pete Nakos, who before I just hit record said he's in a conference room with coffee and his laptop. I just love the image of the picture of what you of you doing what you do. Is this your typical Thursday morning?
Yeah, just before we get on, we broke some news that Texas Tech's going to start their backup quarterback this week against Oklahoma State. Got some Arkansas coaching intel I put out this morning. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's like a wacky Thursday morning by any stretch of the imagination, but yeah, it's just a Thursday in college football season, that's for sure.
It's kind of crazy to hear as of 10:30 in the morning to hear you say, yeah, we just broke two stories, but it's really not that crazy.
I don't think, it's, you're always trying to track stuff down, and, like Sundays I'm like a ball of stress with coaching changes, because I feel like that's like the big time news. This stuff, I don't know. It's not small potatoes by any means, but at the same time, it's not on the same scale.
Can we go back to when you were at Clemson, covering Clemson for On3? Because Pete, I think it's largely because I've been here so damn long that I just don't spend a whole lot of time, I guess, socializing or really even noticing people, and that's nothing against other people on the beat. I just keep my head down, try to do my job. And I was shocked, like maybe 6 months ago, I heard you on another podcast, and you said, yeah, I got started on the Clemson beat with Matt Connolly. And I'm just like, wait, what? I immediately called Matt, and I said, Pete used to work here? Like, this is crazy. So tell me when and how that started.
Yeah, so you kind of have to go back before that too. So I graduated from Ohio University in 2019, and I'm initially from New England. So my first job out of college, I covered Dartmouth athletics for the Valley News in Hanover, New Hampshire, right on that New Hampshire-Vermont border. But one of my good buddies coming out of college, my roommate for 3 years, worked for Letterman Row, which is now part of the On3 Rivals network, obviously. And Will Crawl, who is, the On3 Rivals president, got to know me and stuff. And right when Shannon and Will kind of came together to form their relationship with Letterman Row and On3 was just starting, Will called me. He's like, hey, so like, I don't know how this exactly is going to look, but we need someone to come write some, content for our Letterman Row. And this guy, Matt Connolly, starting at Clemson site and could use some help. And when On3, launches, we want you to help, run our news desk. I'm like, okay, I don't really understand half the things you just told me, but yeah, let's do it. It's college sports. It's what I want to do at a high level. So did some stuff with Ohio State, helped Matt Connolly, kind of launch the Clemson enterprise that he had when On3 initially started. I've still never stepped foot in Clemson, South Carolina. That was all remote work, just trying to help out
I didn't
Matt.
realize that.
And then kind of pivoted to the national news desk in, I think it was 2021, like fall of 2021 when we launched. And then, from there, things have changed sporadically for me. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
I guess hearing that you never were actually here, I don't feel so bad for...
I wouldn't feel bad at all. I think I wrote a couple, injury updates. I vividly remember trying to DM Troy Stellato when he was a recruit, stuff like that. So it wasn't anything that big.
So did he respond?
He did, yeah. I talked to Troy, yeah. So... but yeah, I remember he was like the big time wide receiver recruit at the time for Clemson.
If Will Crawl and Shannon Terry noticed you at that early of a juncture, how old were you, do you think, at that time?
24.
Okay. If they noticed you, it was for a reason, and I'm guessing that reason was they probably are like, whoa, this kid's a news hound. Is that?
Yeah, I think they knew that. So when I was in Hanover, I was somewhat of a news hound because in my last 6 months on the job, Dartmouth Athletics fired their AD because of a whole Title IX situation that was mismanaged. And I think that kind of was like, oh, so like he can like pick up the phone and go chase stuff. Like this kid seems to know what he's doing. And I did the news desk for about 2 years, and then an NIL position open at On3. And I remember reaching out to Luke Stampini, who's now my like direct boss, who I sit 10 feet from in Nashville at our HQ. And reaching out to Luke, and Luke was definitely like a little like, who's this guy in the news desk? What's he want? He's like, yeah, we can do an interview with Shannon and see how you do. And obviously I did well enough to get the job, and NIL has morphed in the transfer portal into just basically being like a national college football insider. And that's been like a 3 or 4 year journey.
Yeah, I think it started off as you being the Schefter of NIL, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
So I guess if you can think back, when is the first time that you can recall where, I don't know if I want to say the bug bit you, but where it sort of clicked like, oh, I can make a name for myself telling people stuff first and telling people stuff they don't already know and that other people aren't writing about.
Yeah, so I was late to NIL to an extent, right? So NIL started summer 2021, and I didn't even start to do it till like 2023. But I quickly learned that there's a part of me that has a competitive edge, that I want to be first on everything and anything. And I want to be, the guy that people come to get all their information when it comes to college football. And I'd say NIL was the avenue for me to do that initially. And through all the twists and turns, I'd say NIL has really cooled off to what it once was. But covering the rise of collectives and, the way money was impacting where recruits were going and transfer portal guys were going was definitely, fun to cover. But I would say that, like, even when I was doing NIL, like, I was very aware of, like, what Chris Lowe, my now colleague, which is weird to say, did, and Pete Thamel and people like that. And I was like, how do I get there? Like, because I knew I wanted to, be at a high level. So I think I realized early on, though, that NIL was going to be the best way to start to make a name for myself. And Shannon and Luke were adamant that, hey, if you do this right, it's going to open up a lot of doors. And of course, they were right.
Opening doors in terms of connections, just building your sort of
just
Rolodex.
Building relationships. And I think when NIL started, I think a lot of people kind of rolled their eyes, shrugged their shoulders, like who are these boosters? Who are these service platforms? And those are still great sources for me to this day, who are now kind of at the forefront of everything in college sports, and those are huge connections that I still lean on. And obviously my network's grown, and I talk to coaches, I talk to all kinds of agents, I talk to administrators, things like that. But some of like my earliest sources I ever built are still great people that I lean on. And Luke and Shannon were right about how, just if you cover NIL right, even if it's a niche right now, even if it's not going to be what it is now in 3 years, it's still going to open up some, necessary pathways I needed to build a name for myself.
So if you cold call a coach, I guess on an introductory basis right now, they know that coach knows who you are.
Yeah.
How did you, when you were, I guess, less, I guess a lower profile, I guess your name wasn't out there. How did you begin relationships then? With coaches specifically.
Yeah, the agent route has always been big for me in what I do, just because, agents have given me the time of day. But even coaches now, it's funny. Like I introduced myself to Mike Elko this summer, and he's like, "Yeah, you're the guy who puts out all the numbers." I was like, "Yeah, that's me. That's me." So, I think coaches have an appreciation for trying to bring some transparency into the NIL world, but doors have really opened for me in the coaching world too, at the transfer portal, and just gathering intel, and then obviously trading information and trying to get the facts straight when it comes to what players going in the portal, where they might visit, things like that.
So okay, Elko as an example, is it important to make an introduction in person, or is it usually over the phone? How does that work?
I would love to make every introduction in person, but in this day and age, that's just so hard to do. So, just reaching out, shooting someone a text message, introducing yourself. Obviously, you want to set up a phone call to actually establish a relationship, but just shooting a text and introducing yourself. And I'm lucky where a lot of these coaches have some kind of an idea who I am, whether it be good or bad.
You said today is not a crazy day. What can you give me the top of mind, most recent example of the crazy, stressful? What would qualify as that?
Yeah, so a couple days stick out. This past spring, with everything that happened with Nico, we were the first to break that there's contract negotiations going on with Tennessee and Nico's camp, and that day got out of control really quick. I remember driving home and my phone was kind of blowing up, and I was kind of like, what just happened? And then like 4 hours later, his dad, went at me on Twitter, which is still hilarious. And then we broke news in January that Carson Beck was going into the transfer portal. And there's, the transfer portal is a really big deal in college football, and everyone in college football cares about it. But there's like a handful of players who do enter the transfer portal that actually kind of grip the larger sports atmosphere across the country, and Carson Beck was one of them. So that was a wild day. But to be honest with you, like the last 6 weeks have been nuts in terms of all the coaching changes. So it's October and there's games going on, but it also kind of feels like December and January already. So I can only imagine what December and January are going to feel like.
So when you get called out on Twitter by a dad or whoever, somebody connected to a person you've written about, do you feel any kind of duty to reach out and say, hey, if you want to give your side of the story, just let me know. Or do you reach out privately and say, hey, man, like, I stand by my reporting? How does that work?
Yeah, so that particular time with Nico's dad, I called him earlier in the day, and he basically hung the phone up on me. So at that point, I kind of knew it was a lost cause trying to get him to talk to me, because he had basically told me to F off earlier in the day. So, if someone comes out and questions my reporting, I obviously, reach out and say, if there's part of the story that hasn't been told that you feel like you want to tell, I mean, I'm more than happy to hear it out and make sure the facts are straight. But, sometimes too in this universe we live in, I've learned that when I run something, it's after I know for a fact, after I've talked to multiple sources, that I feel good about my reporting. And then when I get called out about it on social media, half the time people are just, not even half the time, I'd say almost all the time, it's just because people are mad about something happening. It's very unlikely that the facts are wrong. It's usually people just, bickering or saying things in comments on social media that it's wrong because they don't like the outcome of something.
Shooting the messenger.
Yeah, there's a lot of shooting the messenger in the climate we live in right now.
All right, the newspaper industry, which is the reason I got into journalism a long ass time ago, is basically has cratered essentially, and here in 2025, often asked by college kids, interns, and such, like, what do I do? And I guess the advice that I've give and have always given in this sort of ever changing landscape is, hey, if you can tell people stuff that they, tell people stuff first, or tell people stuff that they can't get anywhere else, you can make a living regardless of what the business looks like. Is that sort of the fundamental advice you would give to the same folks?
I mean, if there's any advice I can ever give, it's build relationships, because what we do is, our core tenet is on building relationships. And I remember coming up in college, I had a professor who I'm still really close with who taught me how to write. And sometimes I wonder if I wrote a little bit better back then because I spent more time writing than I did working the phones. But to do what we do now, you have to work the phones. You have to have relationships. Building relationships is everything. And then, like you said, too, it's, providing the facts to the readers and the fans. Yeah,
give them something, tell them what's really going on, I guess, is what.
Yeah.
Is what.
I view that as, I guess like a core principle of our jobs is to share with the readers and fans what is actually going on in a situation, trying to, go behind the curtain and say, well, really, this player didn't play because of this, or this coaching change is going to happen because of this, or, X, Y, and Z.
Newspapers got away from that. That was probably one of the fundamental problems, other than the model of, giving away everything for free. But it was like newspaper writers, sports editors. It was this like ivory tower. Like they got away. There was a disconnect. There was a lot of distance between them and the fans. It was more like, you're going to read what we say is important, not what you think is important. Tough crap. Do you have any feeling? I mean, do you go far back enough? I mean, you're pretty young, so this could sound like ancient history to you.
Yeah, I worked for a newspaper, and I think I really valued my time there, but it was also obvious that newspapers weren't going to be the future by any means. It feels like I was like at a newspaper that was on one of its last legs, and going to an internet publication like On3 and stuff, I would say, I think, and you have a lot more experience than I do with this, but I think message boards are awesome. I think being able to connect with readers, and, if someone doesn't like what I wrote in a story today on Arkansas, I can easily just be like, well, X, Y, and Z sources told me this. This is why I reported this. Or someone can say, hey, have you heard about this? Can you dig into this for us? And I'm like, yeah, I can make that phone call. That didn't really cross my mind and what I'm doing on my day-to-day. But yeah, if you want me to go figure out how much Marcus Freeman's buyout is, I can go make the phone calls and try to track that down. Like, like stuff like that that's what's so great about what we do now and the network of connections that we have.
It's a direct relationship with your customers.
Yeah.
Accountability, you get praise like, hey, great job, Pete. Great job, Larry. But you also get there's accountability. Like, hey, man, you got that fact wrong. Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. Like just a more direct, honest relationship.
Yeah, much. And I think it's important too because we're a subscription based business, and I think it's important that our subscribers can actually, if someone doesn't like something, I think it's important that they have a right to express how they feel about it. Or, if someone on Tiger Illustrated really wants me to go look into, Garrett Riley's future or something, like if someone really wants that, like that's something that you and I can go work on and try to dig into that and provide to customers. So I think that stuff is that's priceless right there. That's something that is not happening a lot in, I guess other spaces in the world of sports.
So we are a week removed from the Cade Klubnik ankle news being a big deal. It was certainly a big deal here, of course, for obvious reasons, and I was chasing that. But also you and your colleague Brett McMurphy were chasing it, and y'all, I guess the three of us were communicating during the week, plus Chris Lowe a little bit. What really, my big takeaway from that, and I told Brett this, and I think I might have told you this, is, man, I could not do what you guys do. Like, it is hard enough to get information when you're covering one team, and y'all got to cover freaking everything. Like, how do you do? Kind of a stupid question, but I don't know how you do it.
I wouldn't say it's stupid. It's a lot of just trying to keep on top of things, and there's a lot of things that we all hear day to day that just never see the light of day because obviously some of it's off the record or some of it is just such rumor mill that you have to kind of keep an eye on, but at the same time, like, you would never report. I don't know how I do it some days, I'll be honest with you. I'd say the one thing with injuries that I've become has become critical in what I do in the fall is, if I'm always watching like a multi-screen on Saturdays just because that's how I can see the most what's going on. And just being able to sit down and try to keep track of like injuries like on game day and then going out on Sundays and making all the phone calls I have to, like that's huge because let's be honest, like there's not anything streamlined like that in college football until injury reports come out later in the week, and fans don't want to wait till Wednesday or Thursday to figure out what happened to their favorite player on Saturday. So I don't know how I do it some days. I think I have a hell of a team around me, and I mentioned Luke Stampini and Chris and Brett and Jack Terry run social and a couple other guys who run social too. I don't know how to do it without the people I do. I think the one thing about me that I can never say enough about is the team that I'm surrounded by has just as much to do with my success as anything I've ever done. So, and there's stories to tell there that I'll tell, in 25 years, but what they've done and trying to press me to break news and chase things that, it's, I'm just extremely grateful.
It's almost like, as we're talking about the evolution of what matters, what's important with our jobs, it's like the whole newspaper days. It was like the biggest day of the week, coverage-wise, was that Sunday paper where it's blowout coverage, like 10 stories and pictures and all that stuff. And now we've evolved to, it feels like those 12 to 15 games in a season, they matter the least because everybody's watching the game, right? So you don't have to say Cade Klubnik threw 2 picks or whatever, 300 yards. Your job starts Sunday, like the meat of it, and that is telling people what they can't get elsewhere.
I'd say my job really starts like Saturday night at 10 o'clock when my phone starts to ring when coaching agents are asking and talking to administrators about what's going to happen on Sunday. But yes, I agree with that for sure.
When do you go to bed Saturday night generally, and when do you wake up Sunday morning?
I make an effort to try to go to bed Saturday night no later than 11:30 or midnight central because of how nutty Sundays have become. Because I'm not going to be any good for anyone if I like stay up to watch the late game. Like I woke up this past Sunday probably at like 6, give or take, and got a coffee and then went to the office because trying to do coaching stuff is just easier to do from the office for me. But yeah, I'm no good if I like go to bed after midnight on a Saturday. So I watched highlights of Florida State Stanford at my desk in the office here on Sunday morning.
Why is it easier to do the job in the office?
Like Sunday, I was in here I got my nice monitor set up that I like to have Jack and Luke come in, later in the morning so we can have a discourse about what's going to happen that day. And it's just easier for me. I found I worked from home for 2 years as like NIL and stuff and in the transfer portal a little bit. And then I moved down here like 18 months ago to Nashville. And it's been great.
How far from your home is the office?
So I lived in Columbus, Ohio for like 3 or 4 years. And now I'm in Franklin, Tennessee, which is about like a 25-minute drive to our Berry Hill office. So I'll tell you one thing, driving to the office too is like the best time for me to like clear my mind and make phone calls. It's like, it's become one of my favorite times of the day. It's like the closest thing to like quiet, even if I might be like talking to someone on the phone for 30 minutes.
It is wild how that works. Like you need your brain needs that rest to reset.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you a home-based guy, or do you guys have an office in Clemson?
I haven't worked in an office since 2003 at the Augusta Chronicle in Georgia.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Is that a challenge for you, like finding pockets other than the drive to say, okay, I know I've got to stay on this, but I need like to take a walk or to just put my phone up for 20 minutes just to decompress?
So my favorite thing about The Office is Shannon put on a basketball hoop. So like 3 times a day I'll go shoot hoops. It's like the best thing for me to like go get outside and do something. So that's become a big part of my routine, I'd say.
I don't even know if this is in your vocabulary, this phrase, but what does a day off look like for you? I don't know if I can tell you the last time I had a day off. I got engaged at the end of July and I took that day off. Yeah, thanks, man. Usually just a lot of sitting around the house and trying not to do anything. Trying to plan a trip or two in like February or something before spring practice and stuff to try to get away. But I don't think I haven't worked a day since like August 1st. What does your fiance do?
She is a graphic designer for DSW, so she works at home and hangs out with our 3-year-old puppy, who is he's a piece of work. But yeah, I love going to the office every day. I try to get here between like 7:10, 7:20, and then going home is like the best part of the day too. So it's good. It's good. I don't know. I know a lot of people who do what you and I do, Larry, love working from home. I don't know. For me, there's something about going to the office and being around other people. I think it's because I did work from home for so long because of COVID and stuff. I think it's just a nice change of pace for me.
Do you have a set time that you normally go home?
It depends on the day and what the day brings. Sometimes I'll be out here at like 5. Some days it's like 6. I think I've rarely stayed past 6 just because at that point it's like, when am I ever going to get home if I don't leave?
So when you do go home, is it like an established thing like, all right, we're going to have dinner and I'm not going to, my phone's going to be in the other room? Or is it like, honey, you know the deal, like I'm still working?
Yeah, it's a lot of when the phone rings, I answer the phone. So now if I'm working something, I typically, make a point to be like, hey, like this is happening tonight or something. Probably is unhealthy that she knows what time injury reports come out at. But yeah.
That's pretty funny. Do you have any like, are you thinking like family wise, like, okay, like I'm entering a phase where I'm going to have to learn how to dial it back some during sometimes, or is it like you'll cross that bridge when you come to it?
I'm 28. I think we want to get, maybe get married summer 2027. And then I don't think we'll be having children for at least 2 years. So I think it's going to be pedal to the metal for the next, 24 months at the very least.
Is there any day that you go into work and you're like, that you dread something, or you're like, I hope this doesn't happen, or like, what's a bad day?
I dread Sundays in the fall, not because like not because I don't feel confident that we can break the news that someone's fired, but just it's like, and maybe it's because I build relationships with coaches. And I know the common fans like, yeah, James Franklin just got paid like $50 million, and Mike Norvell might get paid $58 million. But like, I've developed relationships with people on these staffs. Like Mike's been great to me, for example. But it's just like, I don't root for people to get fired. Mm-hmm. I'm aware that people get fired, and I'm aware that it's part of my job to break the news if they're fired, and we work really hard at that. But yeah, Sundays are not days I'm fired up for, just because I know that someone's probably losing their job and it's probably impacting like 100 people on that staff.
Yeah. It's not just that person. It's the whole.
No, it's never just that person. And it's like, for me and what I do, and I mean, let's be real here. I'm 28, so like I probably have some better relationships with like general managers and assistant coaches than I do some head coaches at this point in my career. So it's like, just knowing how it's going to impact everyone else kind of sucks too.
What do you think about Clemson and Dabo and where he is right now?
I would say you have a little bit of a better pulse on that than me, but from a national perspective, I have some serious questions about what is going to happen this offseason and what 2026 is going to look like for Dabo Swinney, because clearly this was the year everyone, including myself, thought that they could at least get back to the college football playoff and compete for a national title. That loss to LSU week one, I think there's definitely some questions raised, but I think there's also a thought too coming out of that game. Is LSU really good? Clearly they're not. They just lost to Vanderbilt. And you look at Clemson with losses to Georgia Tech. You're going to have to help me here. Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and what's the third one?
SMU.
SMU. There's another one too. Yeah.
Well, it's four. LSU.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, LSU, Syracuse, SMU.
My point is, if they're going to get back on track, and if they're going to put together a roster that can win football games next year, that they're going to have to go heavy in the portal. He's probably going to have to reassess his entire staff. Is that something he wants to do? I'd say that's probably a rhetorical question at this point, but those are things I'm already thinking about and thinking about what that will mean for him this offseason. And listen, I'm not saying this is going to happen, and you can tell everyone how it's not going to happen, but there's going to be so many jobs that open up. Part of me does wonder if Dabo is going to take a peek around to see what opens up.
Never thought I'd be nodding my head maybe yes to that statement.
Yeah, and it's a massive hypothetical, but like if some more jobs open, like we're expecting them to, the market is going to have enough open jobs where he is going to be able to make a move if he wants to. Now, does he want to? I don't think he does. I think he wants to prove that he can keep winning at Clemson. But the amount of work that's going to have to be put in this offseason to put themselves in a position to win an ACC title in 2026 that's going to take a lot of work.
As president of Harris Home in Anderson, South Carolina, Scott Junkins knows all about foundations and how to cover them beautifully. His client list includes Clemson University, BMW, and Greenville's Floor Field, along with thousands of homes and businesses throughout the area. Harris Home was previously Harris Flooring, but the next logical step was to expand beyond flooring and manage complete interior renovations. Scott has assembled an expert team that completely manages every step of any redesign project, from ideas to finishing touches with both residential and commercial projects. Open the door to more by going to discoverharris.com or by calling 864-225-8631. Listen up, Clemson Tiger fans. Founders Federal Credit Union has a new office right on campus in the Hendricks Center. We're here to serve you with the financial tools you need and the personalized service you deserve. Not on campus, Founders has an office conveniently located on Old Greenville Highway. Stop by or visit foundersfcu.com to learn more and apply for a membership. Relax, you're with Founders. Federally insured by NCUA. Membership qualification required. Do you think a job that he considers befitting of his stature, and I say that in a not in a cynical way, like a real way? Do you think he can get a big enough job that he would leave for? If that makes sense.
I don't know. I don't know. Probably not, just because I think there's only so many jobs he would leave for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, it's like does he look at the landscape and identify a couple jobs where he feels like they could be more successful next season there opposed to 2026 at Clemson? I mean, not turn the tables on you, Larry, but this is a question that you know the answer to better than I would. But I don't feel confident that this current roster is going to be in a better spot to win games in 2026 than they are right now.
Oh no. Next year was, I mean,
that was going to be the rebuild year all along.
Yeah. This past summer, this past off season, Clemson fans who followed it closely were like terrified about next year, and this was the year, and it turns out this year is a bigger dip than they anticipated next year, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, which I think is why I'm so pessimistic about everything that's going to have to happen this offseason.
Do you, on Twitter, there's always an inclination when you're watching a game to have some snappy one-liner or some hot take. It doesn't seem like you do any of that. Is that because it's like a calculated thing, or is that just you're so busy working, it just seems like nonsense?
No, it's very calculated. Uh-huh. The one thing I've tried to make an effort in, especially in the last 18 months or so, is I want people to follow me and come to me because they know that I'm going to be reliable for inside information and breaking news, and ripping off one-liners on Twitter because it might get, 50 likes after it plays just going to do nothing for me long term.
Is that peculiar to you that so many media folks feel like I don't know if it's a business. I mean, it's not like they're getting business off of it. It's more like it's just like, yeah, I just want to be funny, want to be, I guess, the same social media sort of.
I guess you could call it clout chasing. I don't know. That's what people my age would call it. I don't know. I totally get it. And trust me, I've had plenty of tweets written out where I really want to send it, and then I send it to Jack and Luke, and they're just like, yeah, it's really just not worth it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Or comments to people. I mean, I do take some pride in myself that I didn't really entertain any of the comments people made at me during the whole Tennessee situation, because I could have really made a fool out of myself if I tried to, fire back at some people.
Have you tried to make any inroads in the private equity realm, just trying to get your arms around that and to where you can get insight into that as it continues to encroach on college athletics?
But yeah, I've talked to a couple private equity companies. I think private equity is coming to college football. I do. I think we're very close to it. I've gotten to talk to a couple people. I guess my biggest question is what's the return on investment for them? What is the school going to have to fork over to take the money? Is it taking a stake of the athletic department? Is that something people really want to see in college sports?
What if they finally have collective bargaining and the players' union, whatever it is, says,
yeah,
wait, $20.5 million, that's it? Like in the NFL, it's like half. And if it goes to $40 million, hypothetically, does that break a lot of college athletics in your mind?
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. I'm so fascinated to see how long it takes to get to collective bargaining. There's a lot of people who thought that we were on track for it in the next 18 months this summer because of the House settlement, but I don't know. Nothing's happening in Congress. There doesn't really seem to be much movement when it comes to collective bargaining. I think the thing you have to remember, too, when we talk about all this, too, is the conferences have the most power without collective bargaining, right? Because if you come together, then the conferences lose power. So I don't know. I don't know what the next 3 years really look like for college football. I think this Big Ten private equity deal, though, that's being talked about doesn't seem like it's going to, if anything, it seems to be like it's losing some steam. But I think that's something we'll have to keep monitoring.
Could Florida State's vote of confidence been a cover for we got to spend some time trying to get the private equity in order to buy?
I think it's definitely give us 6 weeks to try to make sure we have all our, all the dollars we need in our bank account to make this happen. Yeah, for sure. And the other thing too that I know I was talking to some people close to Florida State, and I know Florida State fans really want Mike Norvell gone. I fully understand that. I get that. Firing Mike Norvell is much more. It's going to cost a lot of money long term, more than just paying that buyout. It's firing the rest of the staff. It's bringing in a brand new staff, trying to make all that happen. I mean, we're talking about something in the $100 million range to pull off all those moves.
That's insane. I mean, in the previous model, Pete, the big expense was facilities because they weren't paying the players. And it would take like 3-4 years of vision, planning, fundraising for Clemson to build a $60 million, Palace football facility. And now we're talking the same amount of money and more after a few losses. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Facilities are interesting too. I don't think the luster of facilities has gone away the way some of us thought they would, including myself. I think that still matters a little bit. I don't think it's as important as money, but it's still a factor. So that whole portion of it is interesting as well.
Are Olympic sports in trouble?
I don't know if Olympic sports are in trouble. I don't want to speculate on something that I honestly haven't given a lot of thought about, to be honest with you. But the one thing I'd say is it seems like we're barreling towards college football and the rest of college sports really, really just going in their separate directions. And the way that college football continues to grow and the financial decisions being made about coaches, I think is the clearest signal as ever that we're just going in two separate directions.
How much sleep do you get a night?
I probably get like 7 hours. I probably should wake up a little earlier than I do. Sometimes I sleep in, sometimes I go to the gym. It depends on the day of the week.
You sleep well?
I sleep well, yeah. The best thing that has ever happened to me, and you're going to really laugh at this. So I grew up on Eastern Standard Time. I'm from New England. I went to Ohio. I lived in Ohio. We moved down here 18 months ago. This is on Central Time. Tell you one thing, Larry, that's made my life easy. When it's 4 o'clock Central here, it's 5 Eastern on Fridays. So that clears up my Fridays for news dumps. And then when it comes to nighttime stuff, if it's 10 Central, it's 11 Eastern. And literally nothing is happening at 11 Eastern.
That's great.
The two best things that have happened to me.
All right. How many calls and stuff have you missed in this 35 plus minutes that we've been talking?
I have not missed phone calls. It does look like I have about 10 Slack messages to answer and about 5 text messages.
Oh my gosh.
Phone calls aren't happening. The one thing about during the week when all these coaches are trying to get ready for football games is like, if they call you, they won't call you until at the nighttime typically. And if you're trying to get someone on the phone, you typically have to go call them. So, which I'm fine with, obviously, but it's not, when people talk about like chasing and break news and stuff like that, that's real. Like people aren't just like sitting around being like, "Ooh, I should call Pete today." It's like, no, you gotta go make the phone calls to get the juice that you want.
Great stuff, Pete. I hope I didn't keep you from anything really important, but this has been awesome.
You're all good. You're all good. I appreciate it, Larry. Thanks so much, man.
Wow. Would love to be a fly on the wall to watch him sort of do his job on a Saturday and Sunday. Fascinating stuff. Really appreciate the support of our sponsors for continuing to help make this happen. And, of course, thanks to every single one of you for hitting that play button. Appreciate it. Cheers.